If you lose $10, it'll take you finding $20 to give you the equivalent feeling of positiveness as negativeness. So you can imagine, right? It's not finding $10, it's finding 20. And it ends up being this kind of ebb and flow. What I'd like to suggest is that when life takes you down the rabbit hole of despair or pain or challenge, that instead of fighting the force with, say, positivity and all that, allow it to sit with you for a few minutes and actually entertain it. Okay, and why am I feeling this way? Oh, it sucks, Barry, because, this person was meant to show up and they didn't in many aspects. And I was let down because I trusted them. That sucks. It really does. Like, let's sit with that for a few minutes. The old Barry, I was very much about confronting it with a real hard positivity. I had these two opposing forces consistently, and I wasn't growing. God is more interested in your growth than he is with your comfort.
Hey guys, it is Allison. I am the host of your show, Allison Answers Mission Awake. I cannot wait to sit down with you today and go over how we are going to crush the mediocrity in your life that has been plaguing our society since the beginning of time. I cannot wait to have a real deal conversation that includes intelligence, fun, excitement, and real actionable steps to make a real difference in the life that you're living now and making it into something you can be damn proud of and excited to live. Sit down, put on your damn seatbelt, and get ready for the ride of your life. Hey guys, how are you today? It is Allison from Allison Answers, and my guest today is Barry Nicolaou. Nicolaou, I believe, is his name. You would never know that I actually know and love this guy. He was already on my podcast a while back, and I invited him back again because he is such a source of light, of learning, of growth. And I'm going to give a formal biography of him, but just from my own perspective, I love having a conversation with him. I know that I will be changed from the conversation before it even starts. I'm already looking forward to my transformation from being in a room with him. So I just want to ask you to just, sit back and really take notes, listen to what this gentleman says. He's from Australia, and he has a wonderful accent, and the way that he communicates, he's just a force to be reckoned with. I'll give you a little bit of a background of him. He's just written his second book, and I cannot really wait to see it and read it. So Barry is a passionate facilitator of organizational cultural synergy. He thrives on exposing the self-defeating business practices that hinder business growth. But I just want to say that he is the guy who helps us to identify the things inside of us, not just as a business, but as a person, the things that block our deepest desires, the things that are happening within our subconscious mind that we're not aware of, that are keeping us from the dreams that we have. And he's so astute at explaining all of this. Barry's core message as a business facilitator is to drive employee synergy through complete cultural enhancement. He creates a roadmap towards cultural alignment. He helps people feel and understand the passion behind why the business does what it does. But he also helps us individually. He's written the book, the 11 Master Secrets to Business Success and Personal Fulfillment. All success lies in understanding ourselves and being able to run a business in that way. His obsession is found in identifying harmful, habitual, and inherited thinking blocks that sabotage us all from taking a leap of faith in our decisions. He recently wrote the book, Move the Mountain, Intention Reset, which to me is an incredible gift to the world. His background began in the fashion industry and footwear industry, and he climbed the top to training and development. He really is a human being that you will learn so much from. If you're a business professional, if you're an entrepreneur, if you are a person who wants to create the life that you really want, and you want to understand how come you keep landing in the same place over and over again, this is the guy to listen to, because he understands the inner working of our unconscious mind and the way to reset our intentions in such a way so that we don't keep blocking the desires and the outcomes that we hope for. So without any further ado, I just can't wait to get on this interview with Barry, and you'll just see just what a good and delightful man he is. Hey, guys, how are you today? It is Allison from Allison Answers and Lager Counseling Services. I have the gentleman that I spoke about on the bio, Barry Nicolaou, who I did mention that he's a very special person. He's all the way in Australia, and it's early in the morning, but this is a gentleman you really just want to listen to and really take in and be willing to grow and learn and prosper from the conversation, because I know you will. So Barry, I just want to welcome you. I'm so glad that you're back. I was saying before that I'm so glad you're here from me, because I'm gonna suck up every bit of information, anything I can get to feel better in my own life. So I hope you guys just can observe that and take it for yourself. So Barry, tell us, you've already been on the podcast before, but I'm sure everyone would love to hear anything new, but also I was talking about your deepest passion when I was describing you, like your obsession and your ability, you're wanting to help people understand and transform maybe their unconscious mind. Would you say that's a big part of what you do?
I think it's definitely something that ends up being part of all of our journeys, right? To realize that we have this unfathomable power to shape our reality. And the only difference ends up being that some of us feel circumstantially driven, that circumstances drive our lives. And some of us feel that, no, I can put my intention forward. I mean, we live in this beautiful universe that allows us to co-create, the life we want to live. And the only enemy I find that goes against that thinking is being in a position where we feel that our challenges don't just define us, but they end up leading us down sometimes a negative path in life, or a painful path. And habitually, we don't know how to get out of that. Like, it becomes habit. And if you can break free from that habit, Allison, it ends up being very freeing for you. And then you discover some evidence of that freeingness, if that's a word. And then you go, well, this stuff's kind of real. I can steer the car in another direction. And then it becomes liberating. And when it becomes liberating, you want to spruik it to the heavens, because you've unlocked a secret of the universe, or the secret of God, which is that you can co-create. And I think that's probably the biggest undertaking in your career, in your relationships, in your challenges, is that okay, this challenge is here to teach me something. It's here to help me learn. I'm not going to let it define me negatively, and then choose for it to move you forward in a direction that offers you resilience and love. And we don't have a heavenly Father that sits there wanting to punish his children. We have a heavenly Father that goes, I can't interfere all the time, because this is how they grow.
Yes.
These challenges are met so they grow. So that philosophy is really transferable to every single aspect of life that you're going through right now. And if you can just see past your challenge, just a little bit past your pain, then you see the bigger picture, just like a parent sees the bigger picture when your child goes through challenges. Sometimes you can't interfere. Sometimes you've got to let the challenge play out, right? Because there's a lesson in that challenge that you need Gracie to learn, or you need your son to learn, or you just need that. And then God's like, can't keep interfering here. I need them to learn this. So that philosophy transferred into all areas of life. The world would be different if we all adopted that.
I want to say, I love everything you're saying, because co-creation, I think, is that secret. That's that power that the majority of human beings are not utilizing. Like, we do not understand the power of what's inside of us from God. And what I'm curious about, I'm so glad you're here because I want to specifically ask you this question.
Mhm,
So, like, as I have moved through being circumstantially driven, I love that
mhm,
phrase. So,
mhm, mhm,
being emotionally charged by circumstances and
mhm,
reacting in
mhm,
that way, I feel like in most ways, I'm pretty good at not doing that. But I I would almost this I'm curious about this. I almost feel like the emotional storms that show up are almost circumstantial. Even they're
mhm,
inside of us,
mhm,
but
mhm,
it almost feels like that's my now next transformation and challenge, like the new growth of like
mhm,
how do I maintain a state of being and not be moved by the different influences of my body, my actual
mhm,
operating system, right? So, because it's
mhm, mhm,
chemistry, right? Our
mhm,
chemical, so because I will notice I'll be in the best mood, I'll be confident, I'm
mhm,
gonna go conquer the world, and I'm like out
mhm,
doing that. And then, like, we don't realize some little fluctuation. It could be a dip in blood sugar, who knows? But then, like, a mood comes in.
mhm,
That
mhm, mhm,
almost feels circumstantial to me.
mm,
And
mm.
finding a
Because,
way, yeah,
mm.
I
No,
would
no,
love
go,
to
go,
hear
go,
you
go.
speak
Finish off.
on
Yeah.
it. I just feel like joy just pulls so much to us, all goodness, and it's a creative power, like to be in a state of joy and gratitude, right?
Mhm,
But when we
mm,
dip
mm,
away from it, that's where I feel like now, like a lot of what I'm doing is a lot of the work is like almost like having to work toward work away from a negative emotion, not a reaction outwardly, but
mm,
inwardly, you
mm.
know?
What you're feeling, Alison, is what all of us are feeling. Hardwired from a neurological point of view, we are negatively hardwired, like from a biological level. It's really important to note that, because if you
Yeah.
think of the fear of dying is probably stronger than the positive emotion of jumping through a field or moving through the world freely.
Yeah.
Okay, last time I remember we were saying that. And the negative emotion of, say, I was reading a piece the other day, was saying if you lose $10, if you just lose $10 from your wallet, it'll take double the equivalent of you finding $20 to give you the same level of feeling in negative and positive emotion. It's really interesting. So you lose $10 and you feel really, oh, I had that $10 in my wallet. I was going to spend it on this, whatever it was. And it'll take you finding on the beach $20 in the sand to give you the equivalent feeling of positiveness as negativeness. So you can imagine, right? It's not finding $10, it's finding 20. And I
Yes.
think there's the fight inside all of us. It's that we lose something really hurts us, and we go down the rabbit hole of despair. And it takes something double that to make us like a Tony Robbins concert, right? Whatever it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
to makes us feel really pumped up and kind of happy. And it ends up being this kind of ebb and flow. What I'd like to suggest is that when life takes you down the rabbit hole of despair or pain or challenge, that instead of fighting the force with, say, positivity and all that, allow it to sit with you for a few minutes and actually entertain it. Okay, and why am I feeling this way? Oh, it sucks, Barry, because this person was meant to show up and they didn't in many aspects, and I was let down because I trusted them. Um, and it takes then you think, okay, well, I feel like terrible right now because I've put my trust in someone. Um, that sucks. It really does. Like, let's sit with that for a few minutes. Um, did something happen in their lives that made them not show up? I don't know. Do they just not want to be with me anymore? I don't know. I haven't heard from them. There's no text, no phone call. I just feel like they've gone cold. Okay, well, I'm going to just sit with the I don't know for a while, and I'm going to get on with my life in this area. And if that person never ends up contacting you, just go, God, I wish them all the best on their journey. And if that person does end up contacting you, and then it ends up being this catastrophic event that you didn't even know was happening in their lives, right? Then you go, oh my God, I feel like I've gone off the deep end here, and I've just thought you ghosted me. And you go, okay, or whatever the problem is, if it's financial worries or if it's If it's relationship problems with your spouse or your kids or whatever it is, just sit with it for a while. Like the old Barry, I was very much about confronting it with a real hard positivity. And what I found was that I had these two opposing forces consistently, and I wasn't growing. And if you look at the mechanics of life and what, let's say, God has put in this world, the seasons are a great interpretation. You get hurricane season and you get blue sky days, right? Who likes hurricane season? Yet the water from a hurricane waters the earth, like it's just everything ends up being used for good, even though you're in the midst of destruction and pain. Like God has a way of going, you'll see my heart. You'll see, right now it hurts. What I care about. And this is something I really want to ferret out, right? God is more interested in your growth than he is with your comfort.
Definitely. Yes.
He is like a parent. I am more interested, like Gracie is now 7, Harmony is 4. I am more interested in their growth than I am with their comfort. That probably means more tears.
Yes, it does.
Am I a bad parent?
No.
Is God a bad parent? Is the world horrible? Is the world a sewer when it's teaching you? And it's like he's got to take us along kicking and screaming to learn. Now, isn't that a love-based God?
Completely.
The fact that he's interested in that and he just doesn't go, let them have their utopia. Let them have their beautiful world, their Adam and Eve. Let them have that. No challenges, no problems, no pain, no nothing. And within a few years, I think we'll get pretty bored.
100%.
But the challenge that you're going through, Alison, right now, the challenges that I'm going through, be in a position where you allow the energy of that challenge to sit with you for a little while. And then what tends to happen is that it runs out of steam after a while, because you'll have a friend and talk to you about something else, and you'll go have a beautiful sandwich for lunch, and all of a sudden you look at what you're driving and where you live and the people that you're helping, and you go, yeah, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. And then if you can intertwine gratitude into that thinking, I've got this challenge, but there's a couple of things I'm grateful for that I'm not paying attention to right now. If this was if I'm all about fairness and I'm all about things being kind of even, why am I not being fair about introducing gratitude in my life right now? There's a question that needs answering. Like when you go to a court, you see a lot of American dramas play out in court scenes in Australia, even in Australia, and the prosecution and the defense speak, not just the prosecution.
Right. Exactly.
So the judge needs to hear both sides, and then there's a judgment at the end. So it's kind of like, why do we do that? Why do we only let the negative go like this, and then we go on with our day? Because then we're going to have an interpretation, right, of that negative seed that we've planted in the world. So then, and then we experience situations that are horrible, and then we go, well, God hates me, or life sucks, or whatever it is. No, come on now, balance the equation. Like you're in the car with your daughter, Alison, and she's talking about what she's going through, and you listen. You don't interrupt. You just listen, and you got a lot of things to say. I can feel it. But you just listen and you go, wow, that must be really hard for you. Like I never thought about it from that point of view. Wow. Anyway, yeah, okay, keep going. Tell me more. And then eventually she'll run out of steam. Eventually she'll run out of things to talk about. And then that's when you can interject and say, it's interesting, but I never thought about it from this angle. What are your thoughts here? What are the 3 things we can be a little bit grateful for right now? Despite this challenge you've just told me about. All of a sudden you balance the scales.
I love what I felt like you were in the car with me and my daughter, Grace, same name, by the way. Yeah. So there's so many things within what you just said. So like, I just want to tag on them, if it's okay, just a couple little things. So one is that, which I know you're coming from this place, is that if the bottom line is the basic, the worldview comes from us, we know that all things that are coming to us, through us, around us are for us. Everything works together for the good, right? So it's like, you just said that, but it's like, if we're coming from that place, so anything that's introduced, we say, oh, Like I try to ask myself, what is it that I need to grow and learn from this, or from this feeling? But I love what you said, because what I just started doing a little bit of is that when I have just a mood swing, I'm like, what are these mood swings? When I have a mood swing, I do a thing called chain analysis where I say,
Yes.
when did I
Yeah.
feel great before? And then you can inevitably trace that back to some little teeny little nuance that shifted, triggered an emotion that you didn't even realize happened. But back to the thing you're saying is so powerful, because the acceptance, anything we struggle against owns us, right? So like the acceptance of the emotion, what I've been doing is it, and this is where I got messed up for a period of time, because, thinking I have to stay in this incredibly high state of emotion. What I was doing, and didn't unknowingly, is I was not allowing and accepting other real emotion like you're describing. So I just started, when I have the emotion, I tell God, I talk to God. I say, this is what I'm feeling. This is what's going on. Like, and I just I'll allow myself to cry. I'll say, I'm not really sure why I feel so angry, or whatever it is I'm feeling. And I'll just say it, because for some reason before, for a period of time, I was stopping that because I thought it was going to manifest something bad. But I think it's just like blowing your nose, like it moves through us, right? Like what you're saying. So yeah, so I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna tell you. And then what I do is I just start asking God, like, could you give me more faith in this situation? Could you give me more certainty? Could you show me how this is for me? And like, as I just keep like talking and asking for these things and waiting, like I start to feel better, because now it's not in my hands, like only like co-creating, right? Do you think that like difficult times well, I bet you, I know you do, that they move us to like the next level?
I
What do you
think
think of that?
I think they do once we've learned the lesson
Yeah.
that's in front of us. The other thing I want to note though is I don't think any of us, unless you're some hugely enlightened being, can think of, say, gratitude in the middle of our pain. I think that's because when we have intense pain, like intense pain, that ends up like being traumatic and ends up defining our characteristics.
Yeah.
I think that because it's so intense and so traumatic, um, we have trouble seeing anything else. Like if you look at people that have suddenly lost a loved one, they can't eat. I mean, their body still needs sustenance, but they can't. It's like and they can't sleep and they can't function in society. They can't drive a car, right? Because they've just lost someone really suddenly dear to them. It's not like those faculties are not there.
Right.
It's just that the receptors for wanting to eat, drive a car, sleep, those receptors are like, I'm not interested in that. I'm just interested in sitting with this pain right now. It's sudden, it's confronting, it's something that I'm not used to. And it's very hard to then feel grateful and happy and all that. But what if you could turn gratefulness on its head a bit and kind of go, all of this that I'm going through is leading to the best version of me, although it doesn't feel that way right now. Like, what if that was just a thought? Wouldn't it be funny if all of this led to me helping someone one day not commit suicide?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be unbelievable? Like, even if that happened or didn't happen, like just the
Yeah.
thought of it. And because I've been through this, I can talk someone back off the ledge, right? Wouldn't that be an interesting thought?
I
And
actually
if you
thought
look
that
at,
after my husband died.
well, yeah,
I did think that. Yeah.
yeah, wow, wow,
Even though it hurt so much, but I was like, you know what? I know this something good it has to.
yeah,
There's
it
no
has
other
to, it does.
option.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
And it doesn't, like, if you think of the world and if you think of, even thoughts, emotion, even the physical world, nothing is really wasted. Everything's kind of used back. Well, nature is like that. Man wastes so much, but nature, like nothing is wasted. Like nothing ever is wasted. Everything's regurgitated and reused, recycled consistently. Like leaves, fall into mulch, and then the mulch forms a bed on the floor of the soil, and all of a sudden new trees form, and like nothing is ever wasted. Even fire, like you see a bushfire, going. Australia has the worst bushfires in the world, and you look at it because we're such a dry continent down here, and and then 6 months after the bushfire, you see little sprouts coming off trees, and even wine, like red wine. They say the best vintages are when the actual vine has gone through a fire. And then the ash from the actual vines trickles to the ground, nurtures the soil and feeds the soil. And then next 3 to 5 years after the vine grows back, those vintages or those wines end up winning awards because of the ash that has actually fallen down. So it's kind of like, if you think about it, it's like, take yourself out of the good and bad. This is good, this is bad. And like, we've got this notion, even in movies, there's a good guy and a bad guy. And if you look at the bad guy, oh, he's just bad, but you don't realize he's gone through absolute stupid hell in his life that has made him who he is. I'm not saying it's justifying what he's doing, but I'm just saying, if you understand his background, his alcoholic father, his abusive grandfather, and shot someone, and all of a sudden this 6-year-old kid ends up growing up to be this bad guy, right? And then we label them. That's a bad guy because he hurt people or whatever it is. And God sits out of that. He doesn't sit in the bad and good, the human tendencies of what we think to be bad and good. And if that's true, then that means that the emotions that we go through, the challenges, are neither good or bad. They are just forming Alison Lager into the person she needs to become.
Yes.
And there's no concept of, this is bad and this is good. It's just life, right? And then we as human beings get caught up in the concept because societal structures are this way, where we kind of identify good and bad. I want to stay with good, the good feelings, the positivity, the joy and the happiness and the laughter. I want to stay in that. And then you don't realize that the forming of you takes more than that. It takes you to see and experience some of the other side that enables you then to appreciate the good stuff when you're in it. And then what ends up happening, it ends up being this cycle that just goes round and round and round. And you end up not so much being more positive, but you end up being more resilient to the negative. That's just okay. That's there to form me. That's there to help me grow. That's there to just sharpen me in some, but I don't know what that is right now. I don't know what it's doing. And it really hurts and it sucks. But I do know that resilience isn't formed from happiness. It's formed from our downtimes.
Hey, guys, how are you? Isn't that amazing? This story that we're hearing on this show is great. I want to just give a shameless plug of my book. I would really want people to have a good look at my book and to understand what it really is. I used to be ashamed to plug my book. And then I realized, how is that right? To keep the information, the 30 years of experience that I have, the 8 years of education, the trauma that I grew out of and learned how to manage, and how to manage emotion, all the training I've had in neuroscience and quantum physics. How can I keep that from the public? So it's not, I used to think it was like something I should, be humble about, but being humble is silly when you're keeping things away from people that they need. So what I want to tell you about my book, and I hope that you do get it, because I think it will really help you. I've gotten a lot of tremendous feedback about my book, and that it's really, really of great value to a lot of people. And what it is, it's an interactive read, and there's inside of it, there's journal entries. So as I'm teaching and going through the book and teaching you how to create the life you want by understanding how you're wired, how your thoughts, feelings, how your words, how thoughts are things, and the neuroscience behind it, and how we are programmed from the time we're 0 to 7 years old to live a life of mediocrity or a life of poor design because of meaning that we attached to events when we were children that just became our programming. What I want to tell you is that there is a way out, and it's a simple way. It's very simple. I believe in the simplicity and the grace in healing, and that it doesn't have to be a big work. So I would love it if you'd get my book. It's a best-selling book on Amazon, and it's my first. And I encourage you to get it. It's called The Wake Up Call, an interactive read for building the life you want. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Thanks so much for being on the show, and let's get back to it. And if you think about like just even kids growing up in really super uber wealthy environments, or trust fund babies, and you see like that the learning that they need so desperately, maybe they're not getting, or they haven't gotten. Yeah. And it's such an irony, because the thing that people are searching for, these like outside circumstances that they think are going to bring the happiness. I know, I'm certain of it. Even just everybody has a rite of passage, like even when they're a teenager, like to have an excruciating broken heart, like to just be dying. I will never be able to make it through my life in this broken heart. But I know that if that first one that I had, if I didn't have that, I can't imagine like how selfish I would have been. Like I learned something from that very first time. What just compassion. I learned what it really means to hurt. And it completely changes you. I don't think God sees pain the same way we do, or death the same way we do. I think, yeah, it's just not, we have such a limited perception.
Yeah. And the other thing I would say is, I don't know if you're a fan of, do you know Neil deGrasse Tyson? He talks about, he's a scientist in the US. He's like this amazing astronomer, talks about life in general. Neil deGrasse, he tells this story of this Italian immigrant family. This is a really cool little story. And this Italian immigrant family came from Italy to New York. And like the whole story you hear with like $5 in their pocket back in the 50s and 60s, right? They came off the boat. And he opened up a little newsstand, and like no money. And they managed to find a little unit in New York where the roof was leaking. It was just a horrible scenario, right? So they were in like no money, Alison. I mean, literally like new land, new opportunity, new freedom, come to America, you can make it, right? And what tended to happen in this story is that this immigrant family came over, and the newsstand that the father bought within 5 years started to become really successful. So he bought another newsstand. And all of a sudden, within 5 years after that, he had 10 newsstands, right? And he was earning decent money, like above average. So at that point, he goes, we've made it. We've got 2 kids now, 2 boys. And the boys grew up in this hardship. And he goes and he buys a house in the suburbs, and like this $5 million mansion. It's been 20 years now, and he's made it, right? And it's this success story. And he says words that end up becoming his downfall. He says, "My children will never have it as hard as what we had it," right? And it's the very cultural European story that we see being played out, Greeks and Italians and Spanish. And we see this kind of, the parents suffered, the children will not. I will make sure. Yet the children grow up. Now these children didn't suffer because mum and dad now have money. They're in their 50s, right? And they've got televisions in their rooms, and their first car is a European car, and it's all great because the father didn't want things to suffer because he suffered big time. And what ends up happening is that the kids end up being deadbeats, both of them, because they did not face the challenges that mum and dad faced. They're rich, they've got money, they can do whatever they want, they can walk across the world freely, but they don't have the defining, painful experiences that lead to good decisions. They didn't have that. And it's a flaw within a lot of cultures. Whereas you say, I suffered, I will not let you suffer, you are my child. Yet it is in that suffering that builds the life that everyone now is privileged to have. So then if that story is even vaguely true for anyone else on the planet, then isn't that struggle built into the mechanism of life to assist us to grow? Like, take that immigrant story and apply it into all areas. Like the what sucks and where we're going backwards is that we feel that rich and money, like money in itself, is the answer to our prayers. And a lot of celebrities, especially in light, like Jim Carrey talks about this consistently, where he says, "I wish everyone could be rich," to know that it's not the answer. I'm rich. I can do whatever I want. It's not going to fill the hole.
Yes.
So, okay, if that's true, if that's vaguely true, money will bring you short-term happiness. It will bring you time to be able to do what you want to do. But a year later or 2 years later, you're going to say, well, is this it? Is this all there is? It's the challenge that fills the hole inside of us to put all of our love and our knowledge and our wisdom towards sorting this current challenge out. And then we sort it out and we feel good, right? And the money's there, and there's a bit of money to do what we need to do. Don't get me wrong. But it is not the end game. The end game is the discomfort you need to feel for the evolution of your soul.
Yes.
That's the end game.
It really is.
And money is just like time. It's just a thing. It doesn't mean a lot. But we put so much emphasis on it that it ends up making us miserable when we don't have it, or when we don't have enough of it. And then we think, well, that person's happier. They've got more than me. Damn it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Just focus on the growth of you. And then everything else will come exactly the way that it's meant to.
Without a meaningful pursuit or a challenge or something to be doing, do you ever notice, like, anybody, I know, like, people who are successful, or, myself, or any person, when you reach a goal, like, let's say a certain amount of money or a certain whatever it is, even then I know that doesn't really bring the joy, because it's really the growth on the way that's bringing the joy, the anticipation of the thing or the experience, right?
Yes.
I would love, because I know that you wrote about the intention reset. And I don't want to forget to hear what you have to say about that, because intention is like the directive, it's the choice, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I intend to, I decide to, I have faith to.
Yeah.
How would you? Yeah. So in your book, the intention reset, the move the mountain. Is that what move the mountain? The intention reset. Can you tell us something about that? I want to get your wealth of knowledge on that.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for mentioning the book. The second book, I've poured more of my heart and soul into than the first book. The first book was great, but it was all about financial gain and understanding economic, how to become quote unquote successful. The second book ends up being more of a understanding on the nuances of how we direct intention and how we can release ourselves from the outcome. And I know it's kind of polarizing to consider it this way, because if we have intention, then we have expectation. But I think where we fail, and the book ferrets this out, is that if we can release the timing of things according to life's schedule rather than according to our schedule, what ends up happening is that goodness and that expectation that we end up receiving remains. It doesn't dissipate. Where I think sometimes what happens is that when we force things through, I don't know if you've experienced this, but when I tend to force something through, it ends up being temporary success. It ends up being fleeting. It doesn't end up being permanent. And I've always wanted to experience permanent joy or permanent success or permanent whatever it is. And it's like I keep bringing it back to children. It's like wanting something for your child, but then delaying gratification because there's something bigger coming. Like when Grace trusts me that I've got something planned for her, that trust is like the best feeling in the world. And then when she does receive what I've got planned for her, then she goes, oh, now I get it. Thanks, Dad. Because I couldn't have got there if I didn't avoid these three areas of gratification. And now I've got that. Like saving money, it's like I'm going to put some money aside to buy a car. All of a sudden, you forego buying game consoles and buying this and nice clothes and whatever, because you want to buy a car. So you kind of, okay, it's building. Now I can afford the car. So what if life operated in the same way? In the book ferrets this out as well. It's, can you delay gratification as such and go, no, it's not happening for me yet. I don't know why. I'm putting the effort in. I'm putting the love in. I'm putting the passion in. I'm putting the Instagram posts up. And I'm not getting the views, or I'm not getting the understanding of that. What's going on there? I must suck. It must be me. It must be my guests. It must be this. It must be what I do for a living. And it's not. It's not any of that. It's that there's a journey for all of us. And once we understand and sit back, Alison, and say, okay, I want it to happen according to my timing. It's not happening. Whatever this is, right? I'm going to release that. God, I'm going to hand this over to you. You know what you're doing. You got the aerial view of my life. I've got the ground view. What the hell do I know? Nothing. Like from a car, how far can you see? From an airplane, how far can you see? Yeah. Right? So perspective here. Mm-hmm. Okay, I trust you. And here's the enlightened soul. This is what they say. If it never happens, I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
If it never happens.
Yes.
And although inside you've got, oh, please make it happen. Please make it happen. Please make it happen. If it never happens, God, and if it's not meant for me, I'm going to work towards it. Mm-hmm. And Alison, that's when it manifests.
Yes.
Being not strangling the outcome of when you think it should happen, and allowing God, larger forces, to shape you through your pain, through your joys, through your guests, through whatever it is. And all of a sudden, Alison goes to sleep tonight and you've got all these thoughts whirling in your head going, oh my God, this is such an amazing experience. Having my podcast, having the counseling centers, having all this great stuff. God, thank you, first of all. Thank you for all that good stuff that I've got going on. And I apologize if I haven't been paying attention to it while I'm seeking my own growth, right? And what God's saying is, trust me. I've got a bigger plan for you, but you need to lay in my arms. You need to trust that I've got an unfolding plan. The moment you hand it over and the moment you trust, you're not strangled by any sort of outcome. And when you release yourself of that strangulation, you move freely in and out of all areas of your life. You're not chained to pain. You're not chained to happiness. You're not chained to other people's opinions. You're not. You just go, I'm taking the chains off. I'm going to just float in and out of all my problems and all my good times and all my bad times. And it doesn't define me, but I'm letting it move through me. I don't know if any of that makes sense.
That makes so much sense to me. And I feel like I'm like breathing in everything you're saying, because I am certain, like really, really certain, that anything that's ever happened for me, manifested in my life, was through the power of surrender and like faith and trust. And I got a little analogy from God I thought was interesting. And it just comes to me whenever this comes up, because it's not like my personality. So, because I like to get involved in shit and like do tinker around and like, how do we make this like happen? But I feel like when we surrender, it is when it comes, if it comes, even if it doesn't, there's such a depth to that. There's such a freedom, like you just described, that really ultimately, if you think about what are we really looking for, if it's abundance, it's freedom, that ability to just let go and just be at peace, right? But this analogy just always comes back because it surprised me about me. My husband was a contractor, so he did, he could fix anything. So if we had like something in the house that was just like, basically, he was like, oh my God, I have no idea how I'm going to fix this thing, whatever it was. Like, and I knew he'd be like, I don't know. And he'd be saying he doesn't know. I literally, and this is not my personality. So just to say, I would literally be like, CJ, I know you're going to do it. And I wasn't pretending. I meant it. I completely did not even look. I knew it would be done, whatever it was, because he always fixed everything. And I just trusted it.
Mm.
And that's not me typically, but God has shown me that so I would have like this experiential, this
Mm.
internal understanding of what it really means to surrender and trust. And
Mm.
I always surrendered and trusted that. So now, like if I ask for something from God or whatever, something I want, an outcome, a way things to be, surrendering it and just never thinking about it again. I practice
Mm.
that. I just like
Mm.
write it down. I'm like, yep. And I just go. It's
Mm.
amazing how many of those things happen and you don't even realize. Like
Yeah.
it shows up surprisingly because you're
Yeah.
not watching it.
Yes,
You're not
exactly.
going,
And
oh,
then,
when. You're good
yeah, you're good because you are good.
because
You're not
coming from
good.
fulfillment.
Yes, exactly.
Then,
That's the key.
then things come because
Yes.
more fulfillment comes to fulfillment, right?
And with perfect timing.
Yes. And it doesn't matter if it does or doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like it's like the parents out there that are listening, and it's like your 10-year-old comes to you and in their wisdom and in their love, they say, Mum, I've got a problem and I'd love your take on it. And you're like, hell yeah, shoot. You haven't opened up to me in like 3 years. Talk to me. And all of a sudden, well, then they explain the challenge and they explain the problem. And you'll go, oh, thank you so much for trusting me with that. If it was me, I'd be doing X, Y, Z, A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, right? And you're coming from years of experience and love and people doing you right and people doing you wrong, and you're coming to and you're trying to give it an optimistic vibe as you're responding, and you that's what it's like when you hand things over. Then the man upstairs says, thank you. If it was me being God, I would, if you want the path of least resistance, here it is. This is what I would do. The problem is we've got to get really good at listening, because God's voice is his only one and only voice is silence. And in the silence, this is what's beautiful about his nature, is that he will say to you, you have the answers. If you really want them, I'll put them in your face. But you have them already within you. What you've got to do is get quiet enough to listen. And when you say listen, you're listening to him, but you're also listening to your own voice.
Mm.
And sometimes it's the opposite to what the ego tells you to do. And that's why there's resistance. It's because I don't want to go in that direction. I want to go in this direction. And you're tugging harder and harder and harder. And then it's whatever you want is kind of getting closer, and it's battening down. It's not letting you have it. And the only way to get it is to be okay with its fruition according to its own timing, which, by the way, is perfect timing for you.
Mm-hmm.
But in our infinite wisdom as mankind, or whatever you want to call it, humankind, we feel that we need to force everything through.
Yes.
And I
And we're
think in
taught
that
that.
becomes a fast-pacedness of life, that life's going too fast. Yeah, because we're going fast. So what
Yeah.
do you expect the outcome to be here? I'm not saying we should slow down and all be farmers, but I'm just saying it's like if you understood that your growth journey isn't lived in the next 3 years, it's lived in the next 50.
Mm-hmm.
Then why are you rushing for it to happen in the next 3 years? Why can't you allow it to happen when the higher power wants it and needs it to happen for your life? This is what's beautiful. It's like he uses all these constructs to just help us grow, and we still hate him for it
Yes.
because it's not according to human schedules. And he just shakes his head, and you go, you'll understand one day. You'll get it. You'll understand. Eventually, you'll see it through my eyes. And
Yeah.
you'll go, oh my God, I was so blind. How could I not see it that way? If you can just incorporate a bit of that God thinking into your current problem, and go,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this sucks. There's something here I have to learn. I don't know when I'm going to learn the lesson. I'm not saying I'm going to learn it today. Might not be today. Might be next month, right? But because of the beauty of the world and because of the beautiful people I've got in it, that's the evidence that things are going to work out for me. There's the evidence that there's good things happening. All of a sudden, you relax into a trusting. You work towards what you want, Alison, but you don't strangle it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
You know, I heard this about our society, just human beings, that until we discovered that there are seasons, that before that, it was just everybody was dying, like no one could figure out anything. But when they discovered the seasons, they knew when to plant. You know, they understood that, you know, in the spring, you know, like when you plant and then when the harvest is. And think about our society not knowing that. Until we knew that, we couldn't really figure out how to survive, like through winter and like when do you plant? When do you sow? When do you reap? And once that was understood, that's when like things really got better. But it's the same thing for us to understand that there's all seasons throughout our life, and through relationships and through businesses and everything. And if you can accept it and make the most of each season, right? Like,
well, yeah, and lean into the discomfort. You know, you probably know about the analogy between the buffalo and the cow. Have you heard about this?
I don't know.
When there's a storm coming, cows would run away from the storm, like they see it coming, right?
Run into it, the
buffaloes run into it.
Yes.
Because you actually shorten your space of time in the storm by running into it, because the storm's moving, right? But cows remain in the storm for 3-4 times as long, because they're basically running with the storm as the storm catches the cows.
Yes. It's so true.
So then, isn't life like that? Aren't we running away from our problems, which then prolongs them? But if you run away, but if you run into your problem and go, stuff this hurts like hell, I'm uncomfortable, I don't want to have a confrontation, I don't like my money situation, or whatever it is, lean into it. All of a sudden, the lesson will get applied, you'll move on, the storm will be gone.
Yes.
But most of us are cows, we're not buffalo. We actually run away from storms. And then we like to talk about how the storm's so fierce and ferocious, and then we talk about, we post it on Facebook and Instagram, and we go, oh, do you see
we're a victim.
We're the victim
of the storm.
Cows are the victims. Yes. Buffaloes are just like, bring it on.
Like fear, the antidote to fear is action.
Yes.
Action.
Yes. Action, and aligned action, if that's possible.
Yeah. That's something, an ongoing life lesson for me, to face instead of avoid, because you get instant gratification by avoiding, but it's not.
You do.
There's no depth to it. It's terrible feeling.
What I would suggest, Alison, do it once. Just don't say I'm going to do it and I'm going to always go in that direction.
Yeah.
Try it once. Just face it and go, this is going to be uncomfortable for the next 2 days. I don't know how I'm going to handle it, but I'm going to go for it. And all of a sudden, I'll promise you what will happen will be this. You'll get through it, and then you'll say, what was the big deal?
Guys, thank you so much for listening to the show. I just want to say to you that we are all together a part of the Mission Awake, a mission that's going to stop the mediocrity that's plaguing all of us. So if you got something here today, I ask that you would be a part of this mission and you'd share it with whoever you can. Take a screenshot of the show and share it on your Instagram. If you are looking for me, you can find me on social media platform Instagram, Alison Answers, or Lager Counseling Services. And give us a review and subscribe if you could to YouTube, Alison Answers. That's where you're going to get a lot of content. I drop stuff every day, goofy stuff, all different kinds of stuff. 5-minute videos that just get you moving in your day. Have a great week. See you next time.